All right, so we were looking at the theories of plan change. We started first of all by looking at Lewin's change model. Then we looked at the action research model. So the third model that we want to look at is on the positive model. So all these models can be applied when it comes to issues to do with the change. So I don't know whether I gave a brief explanation about what the positive model is. No? Yes? I did. All right. So I said that the positive model is also known as the appreciative inquiry. Yeah? That you just want to know what is it that we are doing right currently. Okay? So it basically helps to see what we are working at best so that we can build on the capabilities that we have so that we can achieve our results, our objectives better than the way how we used to achieve those results. So what we mean by how those results are achieved can be issues concerning efficiency as well as the effectiveness of it. Okay? So on the positive model, we're going to look at 5 phases as how I had listed to you. But as you said, we did not explain more or we didn't give notes. Which is which?
Okay, I just wrote the points.
The points. Okay. 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 So the first step in terms of the positive model is to initiate an inquiry. So initiating an inquiry is just the same as if you are trying to get data, to do data collection. Yeah. So you want to understand in terms of what is the status quo. Okay. So maybe if you want to write something down, I can just give you a sentence there so that you can remember what is it that we were discussing. It emphasizes on the members' involvement to identify the organizational issue they have to address. Organizational issues they have to address. So what are the key issues that we are facing as problems maybe in the organization? So we have to initiate for people to inquire what are the probable causes of the problems that we're facing or the issues that we have within the organization. Then number 2 is to inquire into best practices. So on this phase, if you didn't write anything, you can write also something. Yeah. This phase involves gathering information about the best of what is in the organization. About the best of what is in the organization. So we have our problems, yes, but what is it that we are good at? Yeah. The same way, for us to understand the current situation of what this university is going through, the model we normally use is a SWOT analysis, because the SWOT analysis will tell us about your current strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So if you are to combine this, it's both the positive side and the what? And the negative side. So besides that, we know the problems or the issues that we are facing, but we also, again, what is it that we are good at. Yeah, and that's what we are looking at in terms of inquire into the best practices. Number 3 is to discover the themes. Okay, under that, this represents the common dimensions. This represents the common dimensions of people's experiences. So what is the theme? We can put it as a what? Category. Yeah. So in that category, you have a number of things that are similar in nature. Pardon?
Main category.
Main category, yes? Yes. So if the issue is about innovation, we can lump up activities that are showing that in the organization there is innovation. Yeah. New methods, new processes, new products, creative thinking, yeah, all those can be under one category, which is known as innovation. Okay. So we'll find that in the organization, maybe there are so many things that we are bad at and so many things that we are good at, but can we develop common categories to say all this can be placed under ABCD? Okay. So we need to have a specific category where we have similar ideas or similar points in one particular category. But does not necessarily mean that you can only have one category. You can have a variety of categories, but only that you will have so many activities. So you can take all those activities and put them under one. Okay. So the reason is for us to understand where is it we are doing well and where is it that we are not doing well. Okay, depending on the category and the activities in that particular category. The last one is to envision a preferred future. So the question is, can we now look ahead of ourselves and say, where do we want to be? Yeah, because the current situation will help us to assess ourselves against a specific target, which is the preferred what? Future. Yeah. So that's the last one where we're saying we need to envision the preferred future. So that's why the word is preferred, because it is where we desire to be. Okay? So we need to know, okay, so whatever you'll be doing in order to close that particular gap. And eventually things are going to change. Because you'll be looking at it, no, to find figure out. So there will be actions that you'll be taking to change things so that you are able to bridge that particular gap, which is between the current situation and the preferred one and the preferred future. So that's what the positive model is basically looking at. And then the last one is basically to design and deliver ways to create the future. So these are actions. So it means we have to create plans and activities. Okay, if you can write this down, is that the final phase involves the design. The final phase involves the design and delivery of ways to create the future. And delivery of ways to create the future. First, I'll continue. It describes the activities. It describes the activities and creates the plans. And creates the plans necessary to bring about the vision. Necessary to bring about the vision. So what activities should we do? What plans do we have in order to close that particular gap, as I have said? So we need to design and at the same time deliver. Not design and just keep it, but design and what? Implement. Because we normally have a problem here in Malawi of designing good things, but when it comes to delivering. So when we look at the booklet of 2063, yeah, it's a good design. Roads, what, yeah? But now we start looking at the delivery part. How is this going to be delivered? As of when, of course, it's 2063. Okay. Then the last model that we are going to look at is a general model of planned change. General model of planned change. So we're just going to now come up with a general model besides the change models that we have looked at. We are going to talk about a general model of planned change. So you can write as a flow diagram, you understand? Right? As a flow diagram. So it should start with entering and contracting. Entering and contracting. Then diagnosing, contracting. Diagnosing, then the third one, planning and implementing change. And the last one, evaluating and institutionalizing change. Evaluating and institutionalizing change. Institution currently analyzing, yeah? Institutionalizing change. So let's start with entering and contracting. What are we basically talking about? Entering and contracting. Okay, as a paragraph under that heading, I'll explain. In helping assess these issues, the OD, organization development, the OD practitioner, somebody who practices organization development issues. In helping assessing these issues, the OD practitioner, PRACTI, TI again, ONER, somebody who practices organization development. Practitioner. Practitioner is somebody who puts things into practice. OD practitioner may need to collect preliminary data about the organization. May need to collect preliminary data about the organization. Full stop, continue. Similarly, the organization may need to gather information. Similarly, the organization may need to gather information about the practitioner competence and experience.
By the organization.
Competence and experience. About the practitioner's competence and experience. First, continue. This knowledge will help both parties to determine whether they should proceed. To develop a contract for working together. Finish? To develop a contract for working together. So it's quite similar with the previous model that we looked at. Initiate a what? Inquiry. What is it that you're inquiring? The OD practitioner may need to collect preliminary what? Data. Yeah? Just to have a feel, okay, Mavudo are in the organization. Yeah? You haven't studied in-depth analysis, but you're just getting bits and bits of information to know where the problem is in that particular what? Organization. But what we are saying is that besides putting this change agent, okay, so what we are trying to say is that in this process of OD, it's possible that sometimes some organizations hire a consultant. That's why we're saying OD practitioner. Because it can be someone who is a consultant, or sometimes it can even be someone who is within the organization. So you can employ, or we can basically dedicate someone to be as a change agent. You understand the word change agent then? Because you have done change management, isn't it? Yeah. You're doing it now. Okay, fine, yes. So sometimes you can either involve a consultant, or it can be someone whom you know that within the organization they are good with people, they can handle people, and they can handle the issue concerning change within the organization. So that's whom we are calling as an OD practitioner. So it can be someone internal, or it can be someone external. But whatever the case, what we are saying is that someone cannot start by giving you solutions or changing things without first of all knowing where the problem is. Because then what is it that you are changing? You have to understand first of all that, okay, there is a problem here. So with this problem, we are going to now bring in these particular solutions to bring about change. So that's what we are trying to say, is that the entering here is for you now to understand what is happening in the what? Organization. And that's what we mean. It's not the physical entering, but the entering of understanding the problems that are in the organization. But what we're saying is that as a practitioner, as much as you want to understand the organization, but the organization also has to understand this person. So what is it that we want to understand from this person? Is that yes, if we have given this assignment to Rumbani to do it, but the question is now, does Rumbani have the competence? Yeah, that's one thing we have to look at. Is he competent in this particular area? Is it something that he understands and he has knowledge about? Apart from that, we are also saying even in terms of issues concerning what? Experience. Yes. If you don't have experience in handling specific change, then it might be difficult for you to implement change within the organization. So your experience is something that is, again, very vital to the process of change. So what we are saying is that before this is done, is what will help us now basically to say whether we need to develop the contract of working together or not. This contract is not that we're saying that sometimes, yes, we might physically sign, but what we are saying is that we are coming to an agreement. So a contract, we're looking at that, we are coming to a what? To an agreement. Okay? So, how are we going to enter the organization? Yeah? So, what are some of the steps that will be involved for us to understand or enter into this organization? Number one is to clarify the organizational issues. So we need to be clear. Yes, Mobile is a consultant. What consultant you have? What is it that is going to do? Right? So we need to clarify and we have to be very clear. What is the problem that you are facing? Maybe the problem is increased absenteeism in the organization. I'm just giving us an example. So it should be clear to the consultant, okay, I would or it's labor turnover. Oh no, it's increased market share. Oh no, maybe they are growing too fast as an organization. Oh no, they are growing very slow. Problems. There's decreased market share. There's a decrease in number of enrollment of students at university or what problem is it? So we need to clarify so that the OD practitioner understands the problem at hand. Okay. Number two is to determine the relevant client. So who is the client? Okay, under that point, who is the client? The relevant client includes those organization members. Under that point, yeah, determining the relevant client. The relevant client includes those organization members The relevant client includes those organization members who are directly affected by the change. So who do you think are the people affected by change in the organization? The employees, who else? Supervisors, who else? There are so many types of them, right? One, it can be someone who contacted you, contact client, yeah, for you to come and do that. It's the owner of the company, yeah, it could be the employees. It could also be somebody in between customers, for example, yeah, because they are the ones who are basically accessing specific services or products from you. So whatever you change, you also have an impact on the one, on the client, on the customers themselves. Okay. So it means we have to. Why are we looking at the clients? Because remember that these are the people that have specific interest in the organization, right? Yes. So we have to understand them to say what is it that they'll be looking for. Yeah. If we change things, how is it going to affect the customer? How is it also going to affect the employee? How is it also going to affect the owner? So there is a dilemma. Because assuming that, let's say, maybe the organization is not making profits, no, there is answer. But at the same time, customers are looking for commodities that will be, or services that will be at a low price. But at the same time, the customer is looking for low prices, but the employees want high salaries. And the owner also of the organization also wants high what? Profit. This is a dilemma. So the question is, you can't price the commodity high because it means you're not conforming to the interests of the customers because he's looking at low prices. But at the same time, if you're putting at low prices, it means you'll be making less sales. And if you make less sales, you won't be able to pay people high salaries. And even if you say that you want to pay high salaries from the small sales that you're making, what does it mean? It will lessen also in terms of the what? The profit. So whatever changes you're making in the organization, you have to bear in mind that at each particular step, there are people that are going to be affected with the change. So you have to find ways of how you're going to cushion. That's why you find that always, even when the civil servants go on strike, they're demanding. It's not always that they will give them what they are looking for. They'll be saying, no, we want a 50% hike. And then maybe government will come, lobby, talk to them, negotiate and say, no, we're only going to increase you with maybe 10%. Okay? Because we have to make sure that we are balancing on both sides. It should not just be to the interest of the employees, but how are we also going to sustain ourselves, as government departments. Okay? Pardon? No. The demand. Usually, I don't know whether you noticed that CSOs are demanding maybe an increase of so much. Civil servants and that's not nurses, for the same thing. But usually, government does not believe or just bow down immediately. So, you still negotiate with the number, whether we take 12, 5%, something. So, that's what we're saying. You have to come up with a concession where both parties also should be happy. Okay. Number 3 is selecting an OD practitioner. So as we said, is that selecting an OD practitioner will depend on one's expertise and experience. Yes. So for example, I've never worked in an IT company. There are more at the silver as well, change management, so I'll bring total chaos because it's something that is not in line with my expertise. So we have to look at it in terms of your skills that you possess, as well as also your level of experience. Not only that, do you have knowledge in that particular business area? So it should be something that you were already skilled at. You understand about banking, it's easy for you now also to bring about change in the banking sector because you are knowledgeable about how a bank operates. Because otherwise, it might be difficult for you to understand the various stakeholders and the people that will be affected by operating, by virtue of the operations of the bank itself. Not only that, one of the skills that we are looking at is that, again, you have to have the ability to do a research. Because how do you initiate and inquire? How do you basically collect information? It means that, again, you have to be skilled at collecting that information, that data, yes. So what it means there, again, is one of the skills we are looking at is also in terms of the ability to conduct research. And then number 4 is basically developing a contract. So what is this type of contract that we are looking at?
Is it a contract between a position and organization?
Yes. Yes.
When selecting one position, does it also require one company to advertise
Yes, sometimes yes, they do. They can also advertise to say we are looking for a consultant to do a PCG. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. But again, when people apply, sometimes it doesn't know how long we need to. So that's why we're saying that you have to also again evaluate to see whether that practitioner does really have the expertise and experience, okay, before you engage him. Yeah. So my qualifications are it's important also again to verify whether this practitioner has the relevant expertise and experience. So so reference it. So the organization, if you want to check, they can verify. The number of the evaluation, I know how long my shortcuts, no the bus, I will see. Yeah. So yeah. So that's why you find that sometimes people say that in newspaper, no invitation to express for interest, expression of interest. Yeah. So usually, maybe they're looking for a consultant doing it. Or sometimes they will actually specify that no, we're looking for a consultant to do a PCD. Okay. So what is it developing a contract? This involves establishing. This involves establishing the expectations of both parties. Expectations of both parties. Comma, the time and the resources. The time and resources. As well as the ground rules. As well as the ground rules. Which the parties will operate. So borrowing the language in human resource management or organization behavior, we have what is known as a psychological contract. Psychological contract is not something that is actually written, as the word suggests, psychological, where we come to an agreement between the expectations of the employee and the what? And the employer. Okay? So you should come to an agreement whereby you are currently fulfill. If first as an organization, you can be easy to fulfill expectations. Okay? So what we are saying is that when we are bringing an OD practitioner, what we want is to make sure that we establish that we understand expectations on both sides. So maybe the expectation of the organization would be, okay, Mugwera was a synthesis. Mugabwera so Mungo synthesis and Tufuna Mukareva for 5 months. More necessary Mugwera some synthesis was Burani was a Wenda. If you should go not as a Wenda, then we can release you to go. Muganga aggregate my conditions. Okay? So that's why I'm saying time, resources, ground rules. Yes. So whether you give them borders, you say, you're giving what? Rules. Yes. So that's what we are saying is that we should have expectations. And again, also the OD practitioner will also communicate with the organization his what? Expectations. I want to see whether things are being established, my systems are in place. You are making an agreement. Okay? And that's what we are talking about to try and develop a contract. time, resources, ground rules, in short, expectations of both parties should be agreed. Okay, so that was the last step as far as entering and contracting is concerned. I hope you're following. We're talking about the general plan change model, right? Yes, where we said number 1 is entering and contracting, number 2 is diagnosing, 3 is planning and implementing change, 4 is evaluating and institutionalizing change. So with this, we are talking about entering and contracting. So the next step that we want to look at is basically on diagnosing. Diagnosis. So what does it mean to diagnose? But you went to the hospital, right? You have gone to the hospital a couple of times. And what does it mean that we are going to diagnose you? What does it mean? Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, we're trying to check it. So if it's the hospital, we want to see where the problem is. So if you're going to do tests and what have you, all those tests are part of what? Diagnosis. Yeah? Yeah. So the issue is to see where the problem is or to understand where the problem is. Yeah. So the same also in an organization. We can understand the organization problems. Yeah. So it means we can also do a diagnosis. But how are we going to do this diagnosis? Yeah. Is that first of all, we have to understand that an organization is an open system. Yeah. An open system, that it is an organization that interacts with its what? With its environment. Yeah. So how do we understand an organization as a system? We say that an organization can be understood as a system where we have inputs, transformation process, and what? Output. Yes? Yeah. There's a Marie Crossing.